welcome to another episode of Random Respawn. I'm Josh Dragani.
And I am Marshall Behringer.
And on today's episode, we'll talk about horror games. We'll attempt to try to talk about horror games, but we'll see where it goes.
Yay, I guess.
We don't have a viewer question this week. I'm very disappointed, but
actually no. I just recently got one the other day.
Oh, that'd been great if you shared it.
I forgot to tell you. My bad, dude. Okay, now the viewer question in general came from a friend of mine named Rachel who...
Hold that question, my friend, because we can't forget tradition.
Oh, you son of a bitch. Now I'm forgetting. Josh, what have you been playing? Tell me.
All right.
Tell me.
Whoa. 3D Dot Game Heroes.
Nice.
For the PlayStation 3. I believe that's the only console it's out for.
I'm pretty sure too, yeah.
And it's been really fun. I've never played a top-down Zelda game before. I started with Ocarina of Time, and then Majora's Mask, and Wind Waker, and Skyward, and all of those. And those have all been really good. Some better than others, but I've never really been disappointed in them. But they make a ton of homages to other games in 3D Dot Game Heroes. And the premise is that Dotnia, the place that you live in, it was all 2D, but tourism went down, and so in order to bring back tourism, the king makes everything in 3D as kind of like a joke because all the games are now 3D.
How do you do that?
It's you do it in a cutscene. That's how you do it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's what I've been playing. I decided to record my gameplay and do a Let's Play of this game, and the first episode is online right now. And I'm going to try and every week to get an episode up.
Everyone should go check that out. Hey, Josh, what's the link to that?
Oh, yes, our link. We've been telling you the wrong link for a while.
Yeah, our bad.
We do have Random Respawn for basically everything except for YouTube. On YouTube, it's youtube.com/wearerandomrespawn.
Sorry, folks.
Because some Filipino took Random Respawn back in 2010 and has done nothing with it.
Do we actually know it's a Filipino man who took it?
When I went to that page, it actually said someone from the Philippines. So,
oh, wow, okay. So it could be a Filipino man or a woman, possibly.
It could be. It's someone from the Philippines.
Either way, we hate this person now because of it.
Exactly.
They are our arch enemy.
But, yeah, so I've been doing the Let's Play. We have the Let's Play of us playing Portal 2, and... It's kind of hard to do a Let's Play by yourself. It's something I never thought about, but...
You actually have to talk.
Well, right. And there's some times like when I just want to concentrate. But the thing is, the crap that comes out of my mouth is all the stuff that I'm thinking of anyways. So it's kind of... I have to remind myself to actually say what I'm thinking because I'm so used to just thinking these crazy things in my head that now I have to just talk about them. And... You know, when I say these things when we're playing Portal, you'll respond and I'll get some sort of feedback. Whereas now, I don't get any feedback because if I did, it would mean I was crazy.
Well, the voices in your head can give you feedback because we all know you're crazy.
I could talk in different voices, and I kind of do that for some of the characters, and then No, the characters, like when they're talking on the screen.
Okay.
And then
that explains everything.
Forget the accents that I had given them before, but in 3D Dot Game Hero, I'm really enjoying it. I don't necessarily understand why you're strongest when you're at full health, because it's when I'm at my weakest that I wish I was the strongest.
Well, I mean, that's more of an homage to the original 2D Legends of Zelda games where your Link, when he was at max health, when every time he attacked, he would actually use a projectile weapon as well, which, you know, your sword would like fire that whatever projectile beam that was, but every time if you got hit and you were not at full health, you would actually lose that. So I take it that's more like, you know, a throwback to what that game mechanic was back in the day.
Oh, no, it 100% is, but as a whole game mechanic, it confuses me. It's just, you're like, oh man, I'm about to die. Take away my best weapon. Like, just do it. Like, you know what I mean? And that has been fun. I'm going to do the playthrough, and then I think I'm going to have extra episodes where I complete it, because this seems like a pretty completable game. So I may do that too. And all the while I'm playing Ni no Kuni. I wanted to play that, but I thought that I would try capturing some gameplay footage, and 3D Dot Game Heroes seemed to be the best choice that I had. I'm not sure whether or not to just edit out kind of like the lulls and just make it seem like I'm always super duper funny every single comment, or if I should just leave it as a whole.
That's a good question. We should probably send that to the viewers if anyone's watching. Should Josh edit out the lull parts of the videos? Leave your comments, like the video, and leave your comments under it. Do it now.
I guess at the end I could do a best of all 3D Dot Game Heroes, and it'd be like 5 or 6 minutes. Actually,
do like a little montage.
That's giving myself way too much credit to like have 5 or 6 minutes of funny material. I'll do a montage of an entire 6-hour game, and like the only funny parts accumulate to like 18 seconds, and that'll be the.
And it's just mostly you yelling, like being attacked by something.
I quit.
Imagine.
I rage quit because I got a game over, and I'm like, I'm done, and then I turned it off, and that was how that podcast ended.
You mean the video, not the podcast?
The video, son of a monkey.
This is the podcast.
That's what this is.
Oh my god!
This is the podcast.
Hold on, I just surprised myself. This is a podcast.
Oh man! Boy, was I wrong.
Everything is just so different now. I can't view the world the same again.
I've been telling everybody to listen to our YouTube and to watch our podcast.
God, that's why no one listens to us. That explains everything.
Son of a gun. All right, so 3D Dot Game Heroes, that's me. How about you?
So, I was playing Injustice Gods Among Us, which came out for the Xbox 360. And yeah, essentially everything. There's even a fucking mobile version of it, which apparently I've been getting unlocks for it while playing Injustice. I don't know
it looks
how.
exactly like Infinity Blade, like where you swipe.
Ooh, that's kind of cool. I might have to check that out then. But I got it. I beat the campaign, and then I also been playing some multiplayer online. Also been doing the challenges. That's been kind of fun. The story, I would say, is a little bit shorter than the original Mortal Kombat 9 campaign. And I would say is not as good because I was kind of hoping for more like crazy fucking over the top stuff and like a lot of more like holy shit that kind of happened type stuff.
Right.
I don't know. It kind of ended kind of too well. Like I expected 1 or 2 people to die, and then there was one other person that died. I was like, holy shit, that just happened. But like I don't know. It was too easy.
When I played the demo, it seemed too easy for me.
Not like in the difficulty of the game, but like story-wise, it was just too easy to end it off that way.
I see what you're saying. Well, one of the reasons why I didn't rush out to get it is because it did seem too easy to me. And some of the reviews I've been reading say that if you really like Mortal Kombat 9, this game is kind of a step down in difficulty, but it's not an easy game by any means. But I guess the combat isn't as robust, but that's not the correct way to say it either. Really, it boils down to me. I cannot hold back and block. That doesn't work for me. I have to have a block button, and I think that's the only reason that's stopping me from getting this game.
You know, what's weird is I've been kind of having that problem with this game specifically. I've never had that problem with like Street Fighter 4, and then switching to Mortal Kombat 9, I never really had much of an issue with like the block button. I mean, hell, even like in Marvel versus Capcom like 3, I played that a little bit, and that was, also hold back to block. I never had that issue either. But for some reason, this game, I suck at holding back. I don't know what it is. It's just stupid. And what's also throwing me off is to block low attacks, you don't have to like hold back and then down. You can just hold down, and that works too.
Weird.
And that's really throwing me off. Like I'm freaking out, man.
That's crazy, man.
But I've been trying to play a bunch of online matches. I've decided I'm going to play main as the Flash because I love how fast he is and how much of a dick he is. But I've noticed playing him specifically, especially online, that it's kind of hard for me to combo into different moves. And I think I didn't have that much problem doing the campaign when I was playing as him. That's why I kind of realized, oh shit, this guy's fucking awesome. I was able to like get those moves in real fucking quick and just to do your specials into more combos, and it's pretty cool. But online, like I cannot combo into anything. Like I can do like basic combos and then a couple special moves, but like other than that, I feel kind of helpless. And I think it's just because fighting games in general, especially online, they're not that great because of just the input lag, I guess you could say, for your button prompts. It's not like actual lag itself. It's just when you press that button, there usually is an actual delay to it, to when, you know, it goes to the internet and then it reaches those servers, and, you know, kind of pseudo complicated stuff that I still don't really understand, but it's there. I can tell it's there. It's kind of like a lag compensation in the Black Ops 2, where everyone around you when you play Black Ops 2 has the reaction time of a hockey goaltender in the NHL, and essentially when you turn around a corner, you're immediately killed, and you thought you were shooting them, but apparently on their kill screen, you've already turned the corner for the past 3 seconds, and they've been just nonchalantly gunning you down. It essentially kind of feels like that in a way, where I feel like I should be able to get my button prompts to work properly. And even some of my special moves, like, I can't seem to get them to, like, trigger. Even though I'm doing the right commands, it's like the window of opportunity is, like, kind of fucked up online. And, you know, yeah, hopefully they might be able to fix that. I don't know. Maybe we just don't have that type of technology for the internet yet.
We can put a man on the moon, but we can't make a fighting game without lag.
Oh, fucking man. We should get NASA on that shit.
That's right, because we need NASA.
Hey, man, NASA's not doing anything, so. They ain't doing shit right now. Thanks, Obama.
Listen, Marshall, this isn't a political podcast here.
Oh, fuck, I'm so sorry.
Whoa,
what
we
have
get
I
Obama
done?
into this.
Man, Obama got nothing on video games. Actually, you know that CD Projekt Red, what country are they from? I want to say Poland.
Yeah, I think so.
When they essentially, like, when Obama was inaugurated, like, you know, whatever representative of Poland essentially gave him a huge ass gift basket, which also contained, like, the deluxe special edition of The Witcher 2. Like, that's how ridiculous that game is in that country.
Well, it's an amazing game.
Oh, I mean, the whole story of it's kind of a big deal there too. But, like, I mean, that game is pretty fucking awesome anyway. So,
It's true. It's true.
Hopefully, Obama has played that game and has enjoyed it.
As everyone should. Everyone should play that game.
If you can, well, actually, you know, it's on 360 now, so you can play it there. But if you've got a beefy enough computer, or God forbid, a beefy enough gaming laptop, I don't know, no one can see me, but I'm doing air quotes right now. If you have one of those, yeah, play it. It's fucking good.
Gaming laptop is a joke. I've been telling you this for years, Marshall.
Damn it, I move around a lot. I need to have something with me at all times, okay?
I move around a lot too, but I still have a computer.
I can run fucking Witcher 2 on essentially max settings without Uber sampling on. No one can fucking run it with Uber sampling on. That's just stupid.
I think I can, but I don't know.
You don't need to. It does
if I want to Uber sample something, I'll Uber sample it, all right?
All right, fine. I won't argue with you.
And what do you mean you move around? I've moved from North Carolina to Virginia to Michigan, all within 2 years.
I mean for, like, work purposes. God damn it.
You playing at work? Is that what you're doing?
What?
You're playing at work? Is
Shut
that
up.
what yeah? Oh.
Shh. People think I do work.
Just working on my computer here.
People think I do work.
Tappity tap tap tap.
I don't do anything. I have a huge ass paper due in like 2 days. I'm playing games. Who fucking cares?
I'm glad none of your teachers listen to this podcast.
Grad school, man. Fucking grad school. Anywho, what do we have today in the news?
Today we have a question.
Oh, yes. Back to the question at hand. That I totally got interrupted by you. Okay, so one of my friends, Rachel, essentially had a question, if I could break it down to the most simple terms. For people who really aren't into games but want to get into games, what's the best way to start?
Doodle jump. Women love doodle jump.
Maybe not just women in general, but like even it could be a guy, it could be a girl, it could be whoever. But it's essentially like if you've never really played games a whole lot but find them really interesting but maybe a little bit complicated, what's the best way to begin that?
When we first started as kids, it was Super Mario. It was left, right, jump, and I don't even think was turbo. Like, you know, there was the faster.
No, that was a later edition.
Right, so it was left, right, and jump. And that really paved the way for us to do all of these things. Because it's, I would say,
had your D-pad and then your 2 buttons. That was it.
Yeah, and I would say it's very complicated to jump onto a new game that has a camera that, it's got a camera toggle, it's got a movement toggle, it has triggers that turn the buttons into something else that they do. So, you essentially have, in terms of combinations.
So 2 bumpers, 2 triggers, at least 4 face buttons, a D-pad, and then 2 analog sticks.
And then
that's
a
pretty
select
fucking
button,
intense.
which sometimes does something.
Sometimes.
And it's really complicated to just be like, I want to start playing games and pick up Call of Duty. But I say you can start slow, but if you're interested in a game, you'll learn how to play it.
Oh, yeah, totally. If you find that one game that is just like, I fucking love this, I need to play it more, you will force yourself to learn it.
Exactly. A game that's easy to pick up, like Angry Birds or Doodle Jump or a lot of iPhone games, are really appealing because they're very easy to pick up and play. And the thing is, when you're done, you turn off your phone and continue on with what you're doing. Whereas kind of for like an actual PC or console game, you have to make time out of your day. You have to turn on the television, wait for the loading screens, start the game, continue. After that loads, then you start playing. And, in between levels, you'll have load screens. Whereas a lot of times, these much simpler games on the phone, you can play kind of whenever you want to right away. And so that instant gratification is really good for someone who doesn't really game all the time.
That's called the casual market.
It's right, but I feel like everyone starts off casual. You don't start off hardcore. So when you get really good at Angry Birds and you feel like doing something else, there are still 2 really good 2D games that will really help you ease into more complex game controllers. Like Braid is a 2D game with really kind of simple mechanics, but it's a wicked good game.
Oh, yeah. You've got your jumping, and then you have your time manipulation. You essentially just have those 2 different things, but the time manipulation really comes into play where it's mostly just like a puzzle game, but at the same time, it's in the guise of a platformer game, kind of like Mario almost.
And the thing about that game is they don't keep adding special powers to you. They basically swap out the power that you had with something else. So you're not having to remember the previous power that you had and then use a ton of powers with each other, kind of like you have to do with Quantum Conundrum. It's, for these set of levels, your power is just to rewind. And then for the next set of levels, your power is whenever you walk backwards, time rewinds. So it's really simple things like that you can grasp, but it's also a step up from your iPhone. And then you just kind of slowly go into it. But it's kind of like what we said earlier. If you like a game, you're going to learn how to play it. If you really like ancient Constantinople, you're going to play one of the Assassin's Creed games, and you'll learn about climbing buildings and things like that as you play because you may be interested in the architecture and that type of game. So I guess it's not for us to pick a game for you to play. We can tell you some pretty simple games based on controls, but it's really up to you to find the game that you want to play.
I'm going to throw this out there and say maybe possibly fighting games might be a decent vantage point if you want to go directly into like a 360 or a PlayStation 3 with like a lot of controls. Because usually, like most fighting games, it all revolves around a lower punch, a medium punch, a high punch, and then that's about it, really. I mean, there are the occasional, like, you can hit both buttons at the same time to do something, but you don't really need to know a lot in order to really progress yourself into playing it. And then you can then teach yourself, like, input commands of like a Hadouken where you roll down then forward on the stick while pressing a punch button. Essentially can help you learn, like, using multiple buttons at the same time, I would think. And then from there, because, again, it only uses one of the control sticks, and then you could possibly jump into something that uses both the control sticks at the same time. That's when it gets a little bit tricky. But if you're a little bit intimidated by newer consoles, I'd say go on to eBay and find an old Nintendo or an old SNES. I mean, even the SNES had introduced the true triggers, but most games don't really use it. And there are plenty of games out there for the SNES that I would say are very entertaining, but they're not like super complex, just because of just how many buttons there are.
I kind of want to make a counterpoint to your fighting game argument. I
threw that out there. I had no idea if it was going to work.
I threw it out there, and you know what? No, so
I'm a troll in disguise.
I'll get back to that, but I'll say you don't even need to go back as far as the SNES. I mean, go back to any PlayStation game before the DualShock controller, or even PS2 for the most part, and even N64. I mean, in terms of Mario, the best that you could do with the camera is hit the C buttons just to kind of move it to the left or to the right, but it was almost always behind Mario, and you didn't have to worry about the camera at all for those, and that was a fully 3D game. So I mean, you can start as early as N64 PlayStation era and not have to worry about controlling the camera also, and still get amazing games.
You know, more than likely, I would actually recommend hardcore a PlayStation 2 just because of how huge the library is. I mean, there are games that use all the buttons, and then there are games that use like very few of them. Like, it all depends on kind of what you're looking for, what you're comfortable with. I mean, that system had so many fucking games. And I mean, even when the PlayStation 3 and 360 came out, like for a good while, people still made games for the PS2.
It's true. That's a really good point. In terms of game selection and probably ease of availability, the PlayStation, and
usually quality.
PlayStation or PlayStation 2 is surefire. You can't really go wrong.
Yeah.
But back to the fighting game thing, I don't necessarily think that's the best game for someone new into video games to get into because of the button mashing complex. And in all honesty, some of the hardest people I've ever fought were just button mashers. And so whenever someone first starts in a game, they don't really know how to do the moves and stuff like that. They basically just mash all the buttons. And for some reason, they're almost impossible to kill. Not all the time.
However, that's not their fault. That's your fault for sucking that much to lose to a button masher.
Right, but it's not even that. I mean, Lauren beat, I think, the final person in Soul Calibur 2. Like, it was a level 50 Dark Nightmare, whatever the guy's name was, with the eyeball sword. And I think he was like level 200 and something. And it was like the 50th level on a tower. And she beat him first try, despite her brother trying over and over again, because she was just like, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, sometimes the hardest strategy to overcome is fighting someone with no strategy.
Okay, that reminds me. The boss for Street Fighter 4, what the hell was his name? Seth, I want to say?
Seth. It was Seth, yeah.
My buddy Caleb could not, for the life of him, beat Seth as Seth. And the funny part about it is he's like, all right, I fucking give up. And I had never touched Seth ever. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. And I was like, hey, let me try. I beat him in the first fucking try. Like, I button mashed the shit out of it. And I pulled out so many fucking combos. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but it's fucking working.
Right. And so since button mashing is so random, I feel like easy would be too easy, but medium maybe like too hard. But occasionally button mashing will get you through medium. So it's like there's no incentive to really learn the controls because you've been doing so well just button mashing.
Yeah.
But I will say, my brother told me this. I don't remember who said it. It was a famous person, but they were talking about war and how no one will really ever beat America in terms of war. And they go, why is that? Oh, it was a German guy who was talking. And they're like, we don't believe that. You don't think any other army could beat America? And he goes, fighting in war is chaotic, and Americans practice chaos every single day.
Oh yeah.
And so it's a really good point. I mean, in terms of discipline, I feel like we're lacking just as a whole. And so it's Americans.
You should just kind of have to go balls out and like, fuck it. We're just gonna push buttons and see what happens.
And that's why I would say maybe say no to fighting games, because you can get too
because
far.
America fucking rocks.
You can get too far by being raised in America, like in fighting games.
America is the button mashers of fighting games.
It's true. And so that's why I would say maybe, honestly, everything has a caveat. I don't think fighting games aren't necessarily the best thing to jump into just because of how complex they can actually be, but it's find something you're interested in. I know so many girls who don't understand leveling, can't stand holding two weapons when fighting, but they know Kingdom Hearts to the nth degree. And they know all the gummies and customizations and everything. And they've gotten into this game.
I suck at that game. I've come to that conclusion. I was playing it again earlier. I can't play that game for some reason. Maybe it's because of how simple it is in terms of like the fighting style. Like I just and it bugs the shit out of me.
Right, but that's kind of my point, is that not women. I don't know why I said women all of this and women all that. That's very stereotypical. But
yeah, Josh, why you gotta be stereotyped?
Well, because Rachel asked the question, and I assume Rachel's a chick. So
yes, that's very true.
So that's kind of why I'm prefacing everything towards the ladies. The ladies.
Yeah, you are.
But that's a game that I think can be extremely complex, but a girl or someone who just really enjoys it doesn't see the complexity in it because they just really enjoy it. And I think that's a metaphor for life.
That in America. If there's one thing to take away from this podcast tonight, it's America.
And it's that
button mashers.
We don't discuss anything we talk about until moments before. Actually, no, moments after we start recording. There's like a 10 seconds before we do the intro where we're like, what are we going to talk today? And then we just spit it out on the computer. And then
we're gonna do this.
And then this podcast is us wiping off the crap. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. All right, so I think I remember just spewing some nonsense about revival of horror games at the beginning of this podcast. So let's talk about some of the horror games that are coming out and whether or not you think this genre is having a jump start to more that was so poorly worded. Do you think that the recent investment or...
Take your time, Josh. Take your time. Use your words.
Interest. Do you think the recent interest in very niche, scary horror games is a fad, or do you think this kind of thing goes in cycles and this is just on the upswing of very scary niche horror games?
I would say this is definitely not a niche. I would say I blame every single known horror franchise becoming a very action-y focused game and losing the whole horror aspect. I think horror games are always going to be around because, for some reason we like getting the crap scared out of us, and I do the same thing. I mean, I've tried to play Amnesia, The Dark Descent. I've beaten it. Actually, no. I was literally like at the last 5 minutes of the game, and I was like, nah, I think I'm done, because I was tired of getting my ass scared. But I'm so excited for a Machine of Pigs. I can't wait for that fucking game to come out. But I don't know. I feel like because of Resident Evil, I think because of Dead Space, I think just because even Silent Hill, I mean, all of those games that used to be like really hardcore, like scary as fuck, something about it, like, what are the words I'm trying to? What am I trying to say?
Not so easy to think of words, is it?
Oh, you son of a bitch! I knew it. You'd say that. I think it's just because of how action oriented they've become that people are trying to now scrounge up. Okay, what can I play now that is a horror game that's scary? And I feel like a lot of that is actually coming from the indie scene, especially. There's a lot. I mean, a lot of it is almost 2D focused, but I mean, there are games like Slender: The Arrival that just recently came out like a couple weeks back. That is a 3D game. Hey, it's a 3D game. Ooh, that's a selling point.
I can't wait for someone to do that.
Yeah, but there are a lot of games you can find in the indie scene that are primarily incredibly horror focused. Some of them are very minimalist, that almost look 2D, but are actually in a 3D environment. And then there are others that are like still pretty intense, fully fledged horror games like Amnesia and Slender: The Arrival. I just feel like right now for like heavy hitting, like hardcore AAA titles, there are not a lot of horror games until recently, with... What game was just recently announced by Shinji Mikami?
Evil Within?
Evil Within, that's right. That sounds exciting to me. Let's just hope to God that it's not super focused on action, because I feel like that's one of the things that we realized with the newer Resident Evils and the Dead Space games is we don't like the idea of we can kind of defend ourselves like almost too easily. I mean, I would almost prefer having to just fucking run away because there's this fucking creepy creature that I cannot kill. And the fact that you can't kill it, I think, is more scary than the idea that you can with all these wonderful weapons. And let's just hope that the new game is primarily focused on like deep rooted horror, not like over the top action with a little bit of creepiness to it.
Yeah, I actually think that this is kind of an upswing that's going to go down and then go up again because everyone's going to miss these really scary games. And a lot of the games that you had mentioned that have come out recently that were very scary, kind of like Amnesia and Slenderman, and that one game with the stairwells that you just keep walking down. You don't know when the thing's going to get you.
Oh, that was SCP-186. If you don't, for people who don't know, SCP stands for Secure, Contain, and Protect, which is based off a kind of a Wikipedia page for people to create these stories about this institution that pretty much secures, protects, and contains these things, these creatures, these monsters, these artifacts, all sorts of crazy stuff. And this game in particular, Dash 187, I want to say it's 187, is about a stairwell that's literally in this building, and it's a never-ending stairwell, and there's actually something in it that at some point when you're just going down this stairwell, it's atmospheric as all hell. It's just creepy. It's dark, and you could barely see maybe 5 feet in front of you. There's literally a point that you will actually kind of see something. And that it's at this point where the game's about to end, and like the creature actually will like you want to walk towards it because actually the staircase stops, and you kind of see this face in the distance. And as you get closer and closer, and then all of a sudden you realize you see its hands reach out for you, and the game cuts off and shuts off when it does that. It's games like that just scare the shit out of me for some reason.
Yeah, but all these games have come out for the PC because it's a lot easier to just a single person to program.
Whereas, and that's why I think a lot of that, the horror scene is just going PC now, just because, for obvious reasons, most horror games are pretty much predominantly publisher-based and AAA-based. But again, they've now gone towards the action route.
But the thing is, you don't know how many games are made in other countries. I mean, if you take the Fatal Frame series, those were freaking terrifying. And the Fatal Frame is a game where you're a girl and you've got a twin, and I think the twin dies.
That's one of them. At least I think that might have been the second game.
I thought you played as the same chick in the first two.
I'm not entirely sure.
Neither am I. Anyways, but you were armed with a camera, so you could actually kill the ghosts, but it was super terrifying because you'd have to pull out the camera and things would shift or change, or you would look at something and it would look at you, and then you would double take and it would never look at you again. And those were really good, made by really prominent developers. They just never made it to the US.
That game works mechanically because your camera view is just so much more compact, and like it's much more claustrophobic than your normal view, where it's like a kind of a third-person view with different camera angles. And then secondly, and this is the scarier part, is you usually want to wait at the very last possible moment before you take that picture, because the closer the ghost or ghosts that are attacking you are, the closer that they are, the more damage it actually does to them, the more points you get and the more experience you get for it. And that was just the worst part, is just the tension of, I have to be very, very careful to not let this thing get so close, and then it's just, God, that game scares the shit out of me.
Well, there's a game called Dread Out, which is very similar to Fatal Frame that's coming out, but you use a camera phone instead, and that's, I think, the only thing you have. But, that's just one game. And when I was talking about Upswing, I think the same thing is with horror movies. Saw was the upswing, followed by Insidious, and that one, I think it's called Blackout or something else. But there will always be horror movies because they're very cheap to make. And I think that almost horror games are fairly cheap to make because you just make it dark. You don't need to render out as much. You don't need as many detailed textures. Just cover them in red and say it's blood. I think you could cut a lot of corners with a horror game, and I think that's why they've always kind of been around. And recently there's been this upswing in horror games because the large developers see that people actually want these type of horror games. they were always just trying to hit a number. That's what they said with Resident Evil 6. They said that we would never get the numbers of Call of Duty if we were to just make a strict horror game. But I don't think they made those numbers that they wanted. I think they would have made more numbers if they made Resident Evil 6 an actual scary game. But they didn't.
You knew that was never going to happen ever since they came out with 5.
Oh, 5 was really
4,
bad.
That was kind of the trend that kind of started it, really.
4 started it, but 4 was really good.
It was really good. And you know what? There were still plenty of times where it was a different type of fear. Where, like, you know, that first time when you're in the village with the Ganados and,
yes.
you know, you get stuck in that house and then there are all of them just trying to barge in.
And then there's the comes at you.
Oh, God, that motherfucker. That first time when you get your head cut off is just absolutely horrifying. Because, you know, you're not really expecting it to be that kind of a gruesome game. But then all of a sudden he just lops her head off and you go, holy crap.
And I think the main reason that Resident Evil 4 was definitely more of a action game than it was horror, but it definitely had horror elements. There were times when you weren't sure if you were going to win. And Resident Evil 5 and 6, I never had that feeling. I always knew I was going to win. I had plenty of ammo. It was boring. Didn't make any sense. And so it just wasn't entertaining. Whereas, you know, the first Silent Hill, you would have a gun, but you would never fire the gun because ammo was so scarce and your aim was terrible. And a lot of people say it was the aiming mechanics. But the thing is, you were just a dad. I'm totally fine with him not knowing how to use a gun like a police officer. And so you would just run.
Totally.
There were like the gorillas that would come after you, and you never fought a gorilla. You ran from that. And that game was a good game.
I think it also, those older games especially helped a lot with their scariness is because of the limitations of the day. I mean, both game mechanically wise and graphically wise. I mean, like a game like Silent Hill or Resident Evil, usually they had tanky as fuck controls. And what I mean by tanky is you essentially like moved.
You would hold forward and you would walk forward in the direction that you were facing. So if he was facing west, you would have to hit up to make him continue going west.
But then if you wanted to turn, you usually had to stop and then rotate right until he was actually pointing that way you wanted to go,
and then hit up. And it was confusing.
Okay, then with that shitty mechanic, factor in, oh, hey, there's a creepy, fast fucking monster chasing you. Have fun.
Back to upcoming horror games that seem pretty crazy good. Just talked about Dread Out, which was kind of like Fatal Frame. Daylight is also, it seems like it's going to be like Fatal Frame, where you only have a camera phone. And I honestly don't know that much about Daylight, but that's a big one that's coming out. Insane is the Guillermo del Toro game that's based off an H.P. Lovecraft.
Got put on pause because of THQ.
But people are still really excited about it. Whether or not it ever happens is totally up in the air.
I'm pretty sure that's going to be in development hell for all eternity until something happens.
Yeah, until Gearbox buys it.
Oh, stop it. Don't bring that up.
So,
okay, for people who don't know, let me just quickly do this because we're talking about horror games. One of the things that was recently auctioned off for THQ again was the Homeworld license. And for those who don't know, Homeworld 1 and 2 were developed by Relic Entertainment, and Relic is one of the best strategy game developers out there. And these games came out, I want to say like early 2000s, late 90s, I want to say maybe. But it was essentially a 3-dimensional space real-time strategy game. It was one of the only games of its time, I guess. I don't know any other games like it where you essentially behaved in a 3-dimensional environment while doing a strategy game. And you can like essentially do X, Y, and Z axes rather. And then unfortunately, as we just found out, Gearbox Software have acquired the rights to the Homeworld series. Damn it.
It's a sad day in gaming.
And I'm worried because, you know, Aliens Colonial Marines is absolute shit and, you know, it was made by Gearbox, so who knows what's going to happen to Homeworld.
And so was Borderlands. I didn't like Borderlands, but if you liked it, then you're wrong.
I liked 1. 2 was fundamentally flawed.
So
it's still somewhat enjoyable.
Yeah. We briefly
horror games.
We briefly hit upon this one, The Evil Within. It's by one of the directors or creators of the first Resident Evil series, and this has a live action trailer, and
It is weird.
It's really weird. You have no idea about the game.
It's really fucking weird.
I looked at some screenshots, and apparently there's this murder scene, and you're a journalist, and you go there, and then stuff goes crazy. But it's actually an over-the-shoulder third-person game, which I'm kind of afraid of.
Does that make it a third-person shooter? I really hope not.
I think it may. But I will say that forearm chicks, I don't see anything wrong with that.
I don't see anything wrong with that either.
I mean,
I think that's kind of hot.
Granted, the forearm chick was covered in blood in this one and then crawling on windows.
Semantics.
But honestly, if forearm chicks became the norm, it's just more arms to be hugged by, is the way I think of it.
Dude making barbed wire in a corner of his house, and then a weird hammer-wielding man with a safe for a head.
Yeah, and then when it opened,
tentacles.
It was like Cthulhu tentacles spewing everywhere.
Bloody Cthulhu tentacles. Yeah, it's weird.
From another world. And one that we've talked about a lot, and it's probably the most anticipated horror game coming out for the PC, is Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs.
I'm so excited, you have no idea.
But sir, not all the pigs in the world will be good for this machine. It depends on what you call a pig, good sir.
For those who don't know, this is the sequel to Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and if you've never played that game, go fucking play it. It's on PC and Mac. Do it now.
It's not a direct sequel, though. Doesn't it take place like 100 years after?
I don't even think it has nothing to do with the other character. You know, it's during, I want to say, in the industrial area of England. And I want to say the main character gets cursed when he's in a different country. And then when he comes back, he owns a meat processing plant, I want to say. But instead of using pigs recently, he's been actually using dead bodies for the meat. But then when he gets back, the machine comes to life and starts spewing out pig men.
Is that actually what... I didn't think that they had anything about it.
They've had like 2 teasers, not like the main ones that they've shown, but like really short videos that they've had. And from what I keep reading about, people kind of have pieced that together from all the little snippets of like pictures and stuff like that that have been shown on the web. And that's kind of generally what the internet thinks this is about.
Yeah, the first the first Amnesia Dark Descent, I didn't realize that there was so much supernatural elements into it, but it is based off H.P. Lovecraft. Heck, even the studio's named Lovecraft, isn't it?
Maybe?
The studio's named something off of Lovecraft.
Hold on. Let me figure this out right now. We can do this. Amnesia. Community hub. Let me quickly find this while we talk about that. The thing I'm really excited about for Machining of Pigs is, you know, the pigment itself. But for those who don't know, I mean, pigs, when they scream, they sound very eerily like humans. And all the videos that I've heard of these creatures that are attacking the main character sound really fucked up. They sound like pigs. And, you know, if you've ever heard a pig squeal for bloody murder as if, you know, he's about to die, it's very kind of unsettling.
It's very similar to when goats scream. Ah!
Oh, you son.
Ah! I love that video of goats just screaming.
I know you do. Well, unfortunately, I can't find the information at the moment.
Why don't you just go to Amnesia Dark Descent Wikipedia page and just look up who the publisher / developer
Well, hey,
was.
guess what? Since you know that already, why don't you fucking do it?
I gotta do work. I can't believe we're doing this podcast like Wikipedia and crap.
Whatever. While you're doing that, I don't know if that list talks about it, but there's an indie game that seems kind of interesting called Darkwood. There is only one trailer out for it at the moment that I've heard of and I've watched. It's essentially a top-down game where you are in this house or trying to survive in this house, and there's this kid that's with you. The game literally starts off with you're essentially running for dear fucking life, and the screen's like red and shit, and like there's something chasing you in the woods, but then you get back to the house. It sounds almost like kind of like a survivor simulator where you kind of have like Minecraft-esque elements of like you can create stuff like board up windows and things like that. Yeah, for that kind of a game, I didn't realize kind of how terrifying it seems to trying to invoke. That made no sense.
No, it didn't. That's all right.
Damn it.
I found out what I was referring to. It was actually made by Frictional Games, but the engine that they use was the HPL engine.
Ah, nice. I see what they did there.
Yeah, HP Lovecraft engine. So that's what I knew, and so I knew that they based it off of something
Had something to do with Lovecraft.
I did know.
Now, I'm pretty sure this is true. For A Machine of Pigs, Frictional Games is actually producing the game, or rather publishing it, and then they're leaving development up to the Chinese Room, and the Chinese Room, they're known for Dear Esther.
Oh dear, I thought it was just Esther.
Is it Esther?
I don't know. I have it. It's
one of the two.
I'll do a let's play of that soon.
Yeah, that game is mostly for its storytelling. It's not really like super like a game. It's more like an interactive story, I guess. But apparently it's pretty renowned for that stuff, and I'm very interested to know how their take of an Amnesia game is going to be.
Yes, indeed.
It's going to be good.
Well, I think that about sums it up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that wraps it up for today.
All right. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right, take us out.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Please like our Facebook page at facebook.com/randomrespawn. If you want to see Josh's Let's Play video of what's
3D Dot Game Heroes.
3D Dot Game Heroes. Thank you very much, sir. You can watch that at youtube.com/wearerandomrespawn. Thank you, Filipino person, for taking the name already.
You dirty rat.
And with that, we will see you next week. I am Marshall Behringer.
And I'm Josh Richigani.
And we are signing off. Take care. Have a good night.